Welcome back to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2025 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects the Kentucky Derby.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first sportsbook app where you can bet the Derby.
Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise. New customers get a no-sweat first bet on the Kentucky Derby up to $500.
It's like they know each other.
What do you think Rob's saying to him right now?
Probably something about oats.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer with producer Lucia pulling the strings behind the scenes as we get you ready for some big action on the Saturday undercard of Kentucky Derby Day. We're going to preview the fifth race, which is the Distaff Turf Mile. But before we do, we want to let all of you know that the Kentucky Derby packages are now available. You can save up to 39% with the past performances, betting strategies, clocker reports, and the player's guide, shop.drf.com. And then once you've got the past performances and the handicapping all done, you got to make your wagers, right? Where do you go to make your wagers? You head on over to FanDuel and you get that no sweat back $500. It's a free roll. You get a free roll here with FanDuel. Check them out. So you get your past performances at shop.drf.com. Then you head on over and you make your wagers at FanDuel. Mike, the Saturday card at Churchill Downs is fantastic. It doesn't seem like there are that many races where you're going to have like really short price favorites or like overwhelming favorites. I think we get the first of the graded stakes races on Saturday in the Grade 2 Distaff Turf Mile. Horses in here who will take money to the outside. Special One was good last time out, but I certainly don't think this is a horse who's like a cinch or a standout against this field. You have Moving On Up, who's kind of sharp, in good form. Sacred Wish has probably been one of the more solid horses in this group overall, right? Probably like a nice measuring stick.
I agree with that. Yeah, she makes a ton of sense in this race. Sacred Wish does. She's just really consistent. I don't think she's any kind of a superstar, but really consistent, really tactical too. So it feels like she can get any kind of a trip in a race and sort of still be effective. I'm not going to argue with Special One in this race. She can win. I'll be interested to see if she's the favorite come post time.
And as we move to the Timeform US pace projector, I didn't think there was like any speed on paper here. There's really not a whole lot of horses that are need the lead types. And Special One is projected up front. I'm not sure about that, Mike, just because I think she kind of fell into a good trip last time out. There was a runoff leader. She sat second and she kind of inherited the lead. I would expect to see maybe the 2. I personally would love to see a horse like the 8 try to get aggressive, but the 2 is probably one of the more solid tactical speed horses who could save ground down towards the inside.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the 2, if nothing else, she's fast enough to make the lead, I guess, if they want it.
Yep.
But she's going to get a really good trip, it feels like, regardless. And that's certainly what happened in each of her last 2 starts down at Gulfstream Park. Special One's never really been on the lead since she arrived in North America. She's just coming out of faster paced races, Gino, and that, of course, plays into the pace projector. So they got her on the lead here from post 10. I don't really see it happening. And I'm with you on poolside with Slim. I think they should get more aggressive with that horse here and see what happens. This, if nothing else, I agree that the pace might favor front runners. I don't think it's going to be a ton of pace on it here.
Let's meet the field for the Distaff Turf Mile. We'll start with the 1, Venetia. She's a stakes winner. She's multiple graded stakes placed. And she comes out of a couple races where she didn't run all that poorly, Mike. She was 3rd behind Saffron Moon. Gave me another. We're going to see those horses back in stakes races over the weekend. 3rd start of the form cycle. I just kind of like others a little bit more. Like, I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about her, just kind of like others a bit more. What do you think about the 1?
I kind of agree with your take on her. I mean, I think the thing I like most about her is that she's 15-1 on the morning line.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's going to be that price. I like the progression she was making for Chad Brown. Only 2 starts when she got over here as a 3-year-old, but then started to get better again last year. I don't love the field that she beat in the Forever Together, but she got the job done there. And she's just been in against her, stablemate Saffron Moon in her last 2 starts. And that horse has just gotten really good this year. Her running style is problematic. And I'm not quite sure that even her best race will be good enough to beat this field. But she's a great price on the line. And I'll expect her to come running late.
Number 2, Moving On Up, is a kind of a nice a Safi Joseph type runner where he'll get these horses, and once he gets them right, he can really get horses to jump up, and that's what we're seeing with moving on up. She's won her last 2 races pretty impressively, and we have a replay of one of them here, Mike. She's down towards the inside, she's waiting for room, and you see that room opens up down on the inside. So she gets a nice run through. There were a couple anxious moments before where it wasn't sure if that rail was going to open. So the difference between her winning and Five Towns, who runs second, Five Towns had to go wider, the 11 horse, versus the 2 moving on up, who was able to save all the ground there. Tale of 2 different trips. That was the difference between winning maybe and finishing second there.
Trips always make a difference, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. To be honest with you, Gino, the more I watched that race, I'm not sure it would have mattered there,
Yeah,
as good
I
as
agree.
moving on up was. Here's the thing. She's had 2 perfect trips in a row in her last 2 races. But then when you watch the way that she's finishing those races off, you sort of get the idea that, the trips might not have anything to do with it. She's just been really impressive. This was a great claim from Sassy Joseph. She's in excellent form right now. This is the time to step her up and try some tougher competition. She should get another good trip in this race. And oh, by the way, they've already shipped her to Churchill Downs once to run over this turf course, and she was really good winning that day too.
Yeah, you're right. She's just full of run right now.
Yeah.
On her last couple races, she's just looked full of run throughout. And I'm expecting another effort where she's either on the lead or just right behind those leaders, saving all the ground down on the inside. She looks like a major, major player in here. We move to the 3, Pinup Betty. She's just 2 for 14 overall, Mike, but both of those wins did come over this Churchill Downs turf course. She hasn't been in the best of form over the last 3 times we saw her. And the last 3 times we saw her were back last year in September, October, and then November. So do you give her a shot in here?
I give her a shot for sure. I think she's got enough talent to beat this field if she comes up with her good race off the left. I wonder if going shorter is better for her. That's the question that I haven't really been able to get a handle on. Is she better going longer than this, or will the mile really suit her? I think if nothing else, the pace projector that we looked at before could be problematic for her. If she's going to try to sit back going this distance and make one run, that might not work. I could go either way on her, Gino. At the 12-1 morning line, I'm not going to argue with her too hard. I can't say that I love her, but I don't hate her.
Next one up is Serene Saraf, and she's done nothing wrong in her U.S. races. She's been in the U.S. for 2 starts. She wins a turf race at Gulfstream Park. She's in a race that's taken off the turf at Keeneland, and she gets put up via DQ that day. So now she'll make her 3rd start off of a long, long layoff. I don't really have negatives to mention about her. She'll probably need to improve a little bit against this group, but there's not any monsters. Like, nobody scares the heck out of you here, Mike.
Now she's going to have to run a faster race, and we'll see if she's going to be able to do that. To me, the first 2 starts in this country, I don't think the figures really tell the story about those 2 performances. First of all, she's shaped with tons of potential. If you go back and look at her races over in England as a 2-year-old and then as a 3-year-old last year, they weren't all good performances, but her first 3 were really, really good. I think my takeaway from watching those races is she's not a sprinter, and they did try to cut her back a couple of times. She wants to go longer. Her win at Gulfstream, I mean, it only got a 78. Gino, she's 4 wide around the track in that race. I thought she won that race way easier than it looks on paper. Still threw in a really fast final quarter. I just think she's way better than she looks on paper, and I'm really, really interested in her stepping up in this race.
These are the types of spots where you play a horse like this, because before they get into tougher stakes company, because if she wins or she's really impressive, you're not going to really probably have much playable prices on her in the races moving forward. So you want to get ahead of the trend with a big price like this one. We watched the replay of Five Towns, the number 5, finishing second most recently in that stakes race at Gulfstream Park when she was behind moving on up. I don't have a problem with her, Mike. She's a stakes winner. She's multiple graded stakes placed. She's going to go second start off the 6-month break. She was a clear-cut second in that most recent race. And you look back to some of her form, she's behind Full Count Felicia and Fluffy Sock, some solid horses. I think she will probably run a decent race. I think she fits. It's just like a little others more at the top, but I think the price will be fair on her too.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I mean, she's a really, really nice horse. I'm actually a big fan of hers. I remember I bet her in the Gallarat last year. I thought she ran fine in that race. I bet her in the Noble Damsel when they brought her to New York. I thought she ran fine in that race too. She's good. She'll be a good price in here. I think she's a contender. And she's going to be a really fair price in this race as long as, Irad jumping out here doesn't pull too much money her way.
Sacred Wish is actually a grade 1 winner. She won the Matriarch a couple starts back. And then she was in the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf. She was second. She was only beaten a neck that day. And she probably faced a tougher group in the Jenny Wiley. Not probably, because Be Your Best was nowhere to be found in that race in the Jenny Wiley. And any of those 3 horses that beat her, Schwazia, Excellent Truth, Keho Beach, if they were in this race, they would be very, very tough. So I don't really hold it against Sacred Wish at all for finishing 4th. I thought that was a fine 4th. That was about as good as she could have done against that field. And I think she really fits in as probably the horse to beat in here.
That's how I looked at her too. I don't really have anything to add to that. She's just a good horse. She gets good trips. She always shows up in her races. I can't, again, I'm not a huge fan of hers, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that if she goes off the favorite in this race, that I'm going to be running into the windows to bet on her. But I think she's the horse to beat too.
Yep. Tax Implications is a grade 3 winner. She's going to need to turn the tables, though, on a couple of today's rivals. You've seen her behind Special Juan, Sacred Wish, Poolside with Slim. Do you have any kind of traffic trouble, trip notes, any reasons to think she might be able to turn the tables on some of them?
Well, I would just, my takeaway from when I watched the Matriarch back, the race 2 starts back for her, and I think 3 starts back for Sacred Wish. To me, that was just a super slow pace. So they did not go fast early in there. And, it was just sort of dominated towards the front end. And I just really felt like Tax Implications ran a really underrated race there. I mean,
Yeah.
she was really finishing at the end. It was just way too late. Sort of similar thing happened to her in her first start this year in the Honey Fox, where she's last early. She sits in all the way. And then when she gets into the clear, she comes running. It's just way too late for her to make a serious impact. And that's a real problem for her. We already looked at the pace projector. There's not a ton of pace in here. And so it feels like if she doesn't get the right trip, she's badly compromised. I still want to use her, Gino, because I kind of think she's a little dirtied up. And I do think if she gets the right trip in here, she can beat these horses.
I feel like our colleague David has been waiting for a big race for the 8 Poolside with Slim. He used this horse a couple times in some sneaky spots. And I'm wondering if it could be today, Mike, for this filly. She's going to be making her 3rd start of the form cycle, 3rd start of the year. She comes off of 2 races that I think are kind of sneaky, because the Jenny Wiley, she just had no shot. She kept getting pushed back inside and she was all the way back to last. She wanted to be sitting right where like Schwazia was, not far behind the leaders. And all of a sudden she's like in the last in between horses. And it was one of those just unlucky trips. I thought her first start of the year behind Special Juan was fine. It was solid. It was the first start off the bench. Can she take one more step forward now in her 3rd start as a 4-year-old filly? She has a lot more natural speed than most of the horses in this group, Mike. And that's something I would hope to see from her. I'd love to see Joelle get a little aggressive with her like she was doing earlier on in her career, because in this particular race, there isn't that much speed. Could she be either on the lead, maybe sitting 2nd or 3rd, and they're going very slow? I think that's how she runs well in here. What do you think about the 8's chances?
Yeah, one of the reasons I left her open is because I do think they're going to get aggressive with her this time, and maybe just makes the lead in here if they don't make her go fast. She's progressing. She's getting better. It does feel that way when you watch her races. And so maybe one more forward move here with the right trip and she can get the job done. I think you're right about the Jenny Wiley last time. I mean, it almost seemed to me when I watched it that Jose Ortiz just made a decision there that or maybe it was the trainer decision. They were going to rate her that time and see what happened and took her back. I don't think it worked that well. No. They should get more aggressive with her here and see what happens. I'm not a huge fan of hers, but I see the reasoning behind her running a better race this time.
Simply in Front is a grade 2 winner. We're going to be making her first start since November. She did win that grade 2 back at Kentucky Downs, though, in September. Most recently, she was behind Poolside with Slim in a couple races at Keeneland and at Churchill. Any thoughts on this one, Mike?
Overall turf form, I think, is fine. I don't know if it makes her a strong contender against a field like this one. I guess we'll find out. She's another one. It should just be a really good price in here.
Special Juan rounds out the field. She sat 2nd, about 4 lengths off a runoff leader in our time, and she just was always in a good spot. She was always traveling well. It looked like the leader was going to come back to the field, and then she did, and Special Juan took advantage. And 2 of her 3 races in the U.S. have been good, have been solid. Like, I don't really have many knocks on her. I just don't really want to play her at a short price. I'd actually prefer Sacred Wish of the shorter prices if I had 2 of them at kind of equal value.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder what kind of price she really will be in here. I mean, I guess if you're, just somebody who likes spy or speed figures, your eye will be drift to this horse. We'll see. She ran fine last time. I don't think it makes her the favorite against this field, but we'll see what happens.
Before we move to selections, we want to remind all of you that FanDuel is the place to play. You want to get your no sweat first bet back, $500. You can get all the way up to that when you Join FanDuel for new customers. So, Mike, when you're going to head on over and make your wagers, who would you be looking at playing in this 5th race at Churchill on Saturday, the Grade 2 Distaff Turf Mile?
I'm going to bet Serene Seraph in this race. I think she will be a really good price in here, and I think she's just way better than she looks on paper. She's my kind of horse here. She's third off the layoff now, and I have no problem with Mott moving her up in class to try this competition. I think she's going to fit really well here. The other horse for me is moving on up, Gino. The more I looked at her, the more I liked her. I like every one of her turf races since Sappy Joseph has taken over. I think there's another good trip coming.
Yeah, and I think looking at how you have stacked this race and how I stacked them, I think I'm going to play some exotics, maybe like some tries using, Sacred Wish and moving on up as kind of the horses that are solid, and then throwing in a couple of the other prices that we like the 4, Serene Seraph, and the 8, Poolside with Slim. But it all comes down to you and how you're going to make your wagers on Saturday. Whoever you play, we wish you the best of luck.